I moved into the townhouse on Ridgeview Drive after everything fell apart with my old roommate. I needed quiet, a place to think, to reset. Ridgeview was perfect. Mostly families, all older folks. My place shared a wall with the unit next door, but I rarely heard a sound. The neighbor was a guy around my age. His name was Caleb. First time I saw him, he was washing his car. We talked for a few minutes. He was cool, laid back, funny, smart. Said he worked online, some kind of marketing thing. We traded numbers. He told me we should hang out sometime. We never did. I texted a few times, but he always had an excuse. Crazy busy. On a deadline. Maybe next week. Eventually, I stopped trying. But I still saw him, sometimes out on his porch or walking to his mailbox. He'd wave, but always from a distance. Never invited me in. Then one night, I woke up to music. It was faint at first, just a soft beat coming through the shared wall. I thought maybe I was dreaming, but then I heard people laughing, clinking glasses, loud footsteps above me, like someone was dancing. It was 2:12 a.m. I checked my phone twice, then I checked the wall again, still thumping. I stared at the ceiling, then at the clock, then back at the wall. Finally, I got up. I wasn't going to yell or complain, I just wanted it to stop. I threw on a hoodie and walked outside. Caleb's house was lit up like a nightclub. There were 6 cars parked out front. One had music playing from inside. I walked up to the front door and knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, harder, still nothing. I texted Caleb, "Hey man, could you turn the music down a bit?" No reply. I looked around. No movement, no shadows behind the blinds. Just lights and sound and nothing else. Then I reached for the doorknob. It turned. I didn't mean to go inside. I just expected it to be locked. But it wasn't. The moment I stepped in, the music stopped. That's the first thing that hit me. Silence. So loud it rang in my ears. Then I noticed the shoes. At least 10 pairs lined up neatly in the front hall. Boots, sneakers, heels, like people had just arrived. But the house was empty. The kitchen lights were on. The living room TV was glowing. A bottle of wine sat half full on the counter with 2 glasses beside it, but there was no one there. I took a step forward. The floor creaked. That's when I realized the music I'd heard wasn't real. It wasn't playing. It was recorded. I walked into the living room, and there it was. An old speaker sitting on the shelf, still faintly glowing red, like it had just shut off. Then I heard it again. Click, behind me, like someone turning a lock. I spun around, no one. I don't know what made me go upstairs. Curiosity, I guess, or stupidity. The air smelled like bleach and something sweet, like cheap perfume. I climbed the stairs one slow step at a time. Halfway up, I stopped. There was a faint sound, like breathing. Slow, deep, just enough to make my spine go stiff. I pushed open the first door I saw. The bedroom was empty, but the closet door was open. Inside, hanging perfectly spaced, were 3 identical gray suits. Nothing else. No shoes, no shirts, no Caleb. Then I saw the camera. A tiny black lens tucked into the wall corner, blinking. I stepped back. My stomach dropped. I turned and walked quickly downstairs. Not running, not yet, just moving fast enough to tell myself I wasn't scared. But I was. As I passed through the kitchen, I noticed something new. The wine glasses were gone, and the shoes by the door. Only 6 pairs now. That's when I ran. I didn't go home. I ran around the block. Around again. I waited until my hands stopped shaking. When I finally returned, my house felt too quiet, too dark. I locked every door, pulled the blinds shut, turned on every light, sat on the couch and waited for my heartbeat to slow. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You shouldn't have come inside. I blocked the number. I told myself it was a prank. Just someone messing with me. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, I looked out the window. All the cars in Caleb's driveway were gone. The lights were off. And Caleb? Nowhere in sight. A week passed, no sign of him. No movement from the house. One night I couldn't help myself. I went over and looked through his front window. The shoes were back, 10 pairs, perfectly lined up. I didn't go in, I went home, I locked my door twice. The next day, a new couple moved into Caleb's unit. Or at least, that's what the neighborhood email said, but I never saw them. And sometimes, when I'm sitting on my couch late at night, I still hear it. Faint music through the wall. Clink, clink. Laughter. Like a party. A party I know isn't really there. I moved into the Wickfield apartments because I was out of options. My financial aid got delayed. My old roommate backed out 2 weeks before the semester started. The only thing I could afford was this place, a rundown building that used to be a hotel in the 70s. The floors creaked, the paint peeled, and the elevator made this horrible grinding noise like it was chewing on something. But it was cheap, and I was desperate. I told myself it would be fine, that I could survive anything for 9 months. My room was on the 2nd floor, small but decent. The windows rattled in the wind, but the lock worked. My neighbor across the hall, Darren, was the kind of guy who always wore slippers and made pasta at 10 p.m. He was nice enough. The girl a few doors down painted flowers on her door and always had her cat with her. The only weird part? Room 209. It was next to mine, but no one lived there. That's what the landlord told me when I asked. Under renovation, he said, hasn't been rented in years. But late at night, I'd hear soft thuds from behind the wall, sometimes footsteps. Once, I heard what sounded like someone humming. I tried to ignore it, until I saw her. It was just after midnight. I was brushing my teeth. I glanced at the peephole. Don't ask me why, I just did. And I saw a woman standing in front of room 209. Not knocking, not moving, just standing there. She had short gray hair and wore a long dark coat, even though the building was always hot. Her back was to me, but I could feel something in my chest, like my body knew before my brain did. She didn't belong there. The next day, I noticed something even stranger. There was mail stuffed in room 209's doorframe, 4 envelopes, all addressed to D. Weller. I knocked on Darren's door. "Hey," I said, "didn't you say no one lives next door?" He frowned. "Yeah, no one does. But someone's getting mail there." He didn't even blink. "That room's always been like that. Don't worry about it." I hate that answer. Don't worry about it. I've heard it my whole life, from teachers, from doctors, from my dad. It always means shut up and move on, so of course I didn't. That night I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone, when I heard it again. Knock, 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 from the wall right beside me. I sat up, held my breath. Knock, 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 then a voice. A woman's voice, whispering through the wall. "Please stop." That was it, 3 words, quiet, clear, not scared, not angry, just tired. I didn't sleep. I left my lights on and sat in the corner of my bed, staring at that wall, waiting for something else to happen. It didn't. The next morning, I stood outside room 209's door. My hand hovered near the handle. It was locked. I bent down and looked at the space underneath. A folded paper towel was sticking out. I pulled it out. On the back was a smudge of red, maybe lipstick, maybe something worse, and the words, "We are still here." I told myself it was a prank, a messed up joke, but my hands shook all the same. Later that night, I heard footsteps. I peeked through my peephole again, same woman, same coat, only this time, she turned and looked right at my door, like she knew I was there. I stepped back. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I didn't want help, but because I didn't think they'd believe me. I've always had a hard time convincing people of things, even as a kid. My mom said it was because I tell stories. I guess that stuck. But this wasn't a story. A few nights later, the door to room 209 was open. Not wide, just an inch. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew I should go back to my room, lock the door, and call it a night. But I didn't. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. It was dark. No furniture, no lights, just this strong smell, bleach, sweat, and something rotten beneath it. On the far wall, written over and over in messy red letters, was the name D. Weller. And beneath it, scratched into the wood floor, one sentence, "She still lives here." I left and slammed the door behind me. I texted the landlord. He came by the next morning looking confused and annoyed. "No one's in there," he said. "The locks haven't been touched, it's empty. But there's writing on the floor. I checked, nothing's there now." He left. I didn't believe him. That same night, I came home from class and found a note taped to my door. "She saw you." I stopped breathing. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but who? What would I say? I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. The next morning, Darren was gone. His door was open, his room was empty. No goodbye, no boxes, just gone. I knocked on the landlord's office door, no answer. Later that day, the smell came back. This time, it was coming from my own closet. I didn't check. I packed a bag and left before dark. I didn't even lock the door behind me. I live across town now, in a newer building, white walls, clean carpet, no history. But sometimes, when I lie in bed late at night, I still hear it. Knock, 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 from the other side of the wall. And I swear, just once I heard a voice say, "Please stop." I don't really like to talk about this. It makes me feel stupid. And maybe I was. I ignored red flags. I didn't trust my gut. I let someone into my life, someone who should have never been there. But it started off great, like these things always do. Her name was Riley. I met her through a friend at a party. She had this loud laugh and could talk to anyone like she'd known them for years. She told me I looked sad and needed to dance. I told her she was right. We started dating not long after. I was living alone for the first time, in a studio apartment on the east side of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I liked how quiet it was. Riley, not so much. She always needed music or TV or people around. She said silence made her feel like she was being watched. Maybe that was the first red flag. I didn't catch it at the time. She came over a lot, at first just on weekends, then most nights. I didn't mind, I liked her being there. She made the place feel less empty. But there was one night I asked her to go home early. I had an early class and needed sleep. She didn't take it well. She pouted and asked why I was kicking her out. I told her I wasn't, but she rolled her eyes and stormed off. The next morning, she was in my apartment when I woke up. I found her sitting on the couch wearing one of my hoodies, eating cereal. "Did you leave the door unlocked?" she asked, like it was no big deal. But I always lock my door. Always. It's a habit I picked up from my mom. Even in broad daylight, even if I'm just checking the mail, I lock the door. I didn't say anything, I just nodded. Maybe I left it open, maybe I was tired. Later that week, I couldn't find my spare key. I had one hidden in the drawer under the microwave, inside a fake soup can. That's where it always was. But when I checked, it was gone. I asked Riley if she'd seen it. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "No, but you really shouldn't leave keys in obvious places. Then she smiled. That's when I started to feel uneasy. A few nights later, I came home late and noticed my bathroom light was on. I hadn't left it on. When I walked in, Riley was already there, sitting on my bed, scrolling through her phone. I didn't ask how she got in. I was afraid of the answer. She started spending even more time at my place. I didn't know how to say no without causing a fight. Every time I hinted at space, she'd say things like, "I guess I care more than you do," or, "Maybe you're just trying to get rid of me." So I let it slide. I told myself she was just intense. Then things got worse. I started getting strange notifications. At first, I thought my phone was just glitching. Then I realized someone had installed a location tracker on it. I couldn't uninstall it. Every time I did, it came back. I knew it was her, but I didn't confront her. I didn't want to see what she'd do. One night, I decided I needed out. I waited until she wasn't around and packed a small bag. I planned to stay at a friend's place and figure things out. But when I opened my front door, she was standing there, right outside. She smiled like she'd just gotten home, like it was totally normal. "I brought dinner," she said. I let her in. I didn't know what else to do. That night, I pretended to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I felt her get out of bed. I cracked one eye open just enough to see her moving around the apartment. She opened my laptop, typed something, then went to my closet. She was holding my jacket, the one with my building access fob in the pocket. She pressed it to her face and closed her eyes. I stayed perfectly still. In the morning, she was gone. The laptop was closed. Nothing looked touched. But the feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. I told my friend Marcus everything. He said I needed to change my locks and block her number. I agreed. That afternoon, I changed the locks. That night, I blocked her on everything. I felt like I could finally breathe. But 2 days later, I came home to find my window open and muddy footprints on the floor. My spare key was back under the microwave, right where it used to be, and in the middle of my bed was a single Polaroid photo. It showed me sleeping. Someone had taken it from inside the apartment. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the lights on. I sat in the kitchen with a baseball bat in my lap and waited for something to move. Nothing did. The next morning, I filed a police report. They took notes, asked a few questions, but said there wasn't enough proof of break-in. "Could have been a prank," one of them said. They didn't take the photo seriously. A week passed. No sign of Riley. Then Marcus called me, panicked. "She showed up at my place," he said. "She asked if I'd seen you. She was inside when I got home. Said the door was unlocked, but I never leave it unlocked." He changed his locks that day. I haven't seen Riley since. I don't know where she went, but sometimes I come home and things feel off. My toothbrush is moved, the milk's slightly warmer. My desk chair is turned just a little to the right. I always lock my door, always. But when I wake up in the middle of the night and listen closely, I can still hear the soft click of a key turning in the lock.